New development in the Çağla Tuğaltay murder. The mystery of the missing car. The unsolved murder of 15-year-old high school student Çağla Tuğaltay, who was brutally killed in her home in Fulya, Istanbul on June 5, 2000, has resurfaced 25 years later. Çağla Tuğaltay was a young girl who, even at the age of 15, lit up her surroundings with her smile. Although she had a life like many of her peers, what Çağla would go on to experience was unlike that of any of her friends. For 25 years, the stolen years, whose thief is still unknown, have been buried with the young girl. In the case where her family was never considered suspects, all the contradictory statements, unrecorded notes, and unmade investigations grew like an avalanche. Despite the presence of witnesses, no progress was made. Everything that happened that day was told by lawyer Umit Altay, who voluntarily took on the mission of solving Çağla's case. On June 5, 2000, there were only 2 weeks left until the end of the 1999-2000 school year. While for many youths, only 2 Mondays remained, for 15-year-old Çağla, it was her last Monday. Living on Narçe Street in the Fulya neighborhood of Şişli, Istanbul, Çağla went to school that morning as part of her routine, came home, and fell asleep never to wake up again. The young girl was found in their apartment in Tidem apartment in her brother's room with her throat cut and her clothes pulled off by their neighbor Nilgün. Although crimes like rape and theft were first suspected, the fact that the door was never forced open raised new questions. 15-year-old Çağla had come home the same way, at the same time, and in the same manner as always after school. Her entry into the home brought the familiar sounds to the ears of many neighbors who had known them for a long time. The sound of Çağla climbing the stairs with firm steps was heard by neighbors even when she was inside the house. The same things happened on June 5, 2000. Seconds after the sound of the young girl's firm footsteps, neighbors also heard her say, "Ah," in a surprised tone. "We were a normal family with 2 children, 4 people in total," Gülnur would later say. On that day, unlike others, her mother Gülnur Tuğaltay was not at home to greet her. She had gone, as she had previously told her daughter, to a doctor's appointment at a clinic near her husband Nedim Tuğaltay's workplace. Everything was going as usual. Mother Gülnur Tuğaltay called Çağla to reach her by phone, but there was no answer.
Sabahleyin Çağla'yı okula yolladım. Yollarken de doktor randevum olduğunu söyledim. Büyük bir ihtimalle evde olacağımı söyledim ama 5-10 dakika geç girsem de haberin olsun kızım dedim. Peki anne dedi. Doktora gittim, randevu sarktı. Sonra Çağla'ya ulaşamadım.
When she couldn't reach her daughter, she called Nilgün and asked her to check the apartment.
Sonra komşumuzdan rica ettim. Anahtarımız vardı onda. Bir bakar mısın, Çağla banyo mu yapıyor, tuvalette mi falan diye. Sonra o bu tabloyla karşılaşmış.
Nilgün went upstairs and opened the door with the spare key. What she found would stay with her for life. Çağla lay in her brother's room, in her school uniform, throat cut, her legs hanging off the bed. She ran out screaming, alerting the neighbors. Police and reporters flooded the building. Gülnur and her husband returned home to chaos. Father Nedim Tuğaltay reportedly walked through the apartment after seeing his daughter, checking the fridge, wardrobe, and balcony. Neighbor Reyhan, from the opposite building, claimed she saw Nedim on the balcony, holding a knife with blood on his hands, before police arrived. A boy walking his dog said the same. But reports written over 25 years claim it was impossible to see that balcony from her apartment. A claim disputed by lawyer Altay, who said, "The knife was in his hand. It's never entered the case file." In the 2015 testimony, Nedim Tuğaltay, Çağla's father, says, "During the years when the incident occurred, I owned a bedding shop and a dry cleaning business in the Nişantaşı district. My wife, Gülnur, was a housewife. My son, İlker, was studying at Karadeniz Technical University in Ünye, Ordu in 1999. My late daughter, Çağla, was a first-year student at Levent Girls Vocational High School. We were living a simple and ordinary life. Neither my family nor I had any debts or conflicts with anyone. We didn't have many visitors to our home. When I wasn't at home, I knew that neighbors in our building, like Nilgun, our neighbor Hassan's wife Nafiye, and other neighbors whose names I can't recall, would visit us. Besides that, none of my friends visited our home except for my business partner, who had come over a few times. On the day of the incident, I got up early in the morning, had breakfast with my wife and daughter, and then Çağla left for school. I left for my workplace in Nişantaşı at around 10 a.m. I was handling my daily tasks at work. My wife, Gulnur, was suffering from gynecological issues and was planning to visit a doctor whose office was near my workplace. We hadn't scheduled an appointment because the doctor was our neighbor and we were on friendly terms, so there would be no charge. However, it was known in advance that she would visit the doctor that day. Around 2 or 2:30 p.m., Gulnur came to my workplace. After chatting briefly, she went to the doctor's office located just across the street. I continued with my work. I know that my wife's checkup was delayed because the doctor had many patients and my wife didn't have an appointment. While I was at work, my wife called me and said that our daughter would have come home from school by then, but she couldn't reach her on either her cell phone or the home phone. She told me she called our downstairs neighbor, Nilgun. After a minute or two, she called me again, saying that Nilgun had called her back, urgently telling her to come home. I immediately met my wife at my workplace and we drove home in my car. When we arrived in front of our building, there was a large crowd and police cars. When we asked what had happened, no one told us anything. My wife and I hurried inside and saw our neighbors and uniformed police officers on the stairs. When we reached the first floor, Nilgun came and took my wife's arm. When I went upstairs, I saw a police officer and our neighbor, Hassan, in front of our apartment. When I asked what had happened, they didn't tell me anything. Suspecting something was wrong, I pushed past them into the apartment. I checked the bathroom directly across the corridor but found nothing. In the living room, I saw Çağla's school bag near the entrance. When I entered Çağla's room, it was empty. I then went into my son's room, who was away at school in Ordu. The rug in the middle of the room was disheveled and Çağla was lying on it with her legs pulled up, her school skirt pulled up to her chest, her waist and head on the bed, and her underwear on the floor. As I got closer, I saw foam and blood around her neck. Seeing her without underwear, I wondered if she had been involved in a sexual encounter with someone and then committed suicide. However, there was no knife or similar object near her. In my shock and grief, I picked up her underwear from the floor and placed it over her abdomen, then covered her exposed skirt. At that moment, our neighbor Hassan and a police officer arrived. They tried to pull me out, but I didn't listen to them. I checked all the rooms and found blood in the kitchen sink and on the faucet, and Çağla's boots were neatly placed next to each other on the kitchen rug. The rest of the house was not disturbed except for the mess in the room where Çağla was found, which seemed to be from a struggle. I searched the entire house, including the balcony, but found no one else. Eventually, the neighbors and officers managed to get me out of the house. The officers conducted their investigation, talked to us, and took our statements. At the time of the incident, my son Ilker was at school in Ordu. I don't remember who notified our relatives, but my son arrived the next day, and we buried my daughter the day after that. I don't know who killed my daughter or why. Neither I nor my family have any enmity with anyone. Although years have passed, the case remains unsolved. I want the perpetrator or perpetrators to be identified, caught, and punished.
Olay 5 Haziran 2000'de oldu. O zamandan beri bizim için hayat durdu.
Gulnur's appointment raised questions. She said she went to the doctor at 3 p.m., but there's an unexplained 1.5-hour gap in her timeline. The doctor's statement was never officially taken. When a TV team tried to reach him in 2008, he fled. Why would the doctor, whom you say was a family friend, not give a statement? If, for example, the daughter of a family friend is murdered, you might say, I condemn it too, I want the murderer found. Ilker Tuğaltay, Çağla's older brother, was said to be at university in Ordu. According to the family, he returned after hearing about the murder on the radio during a bus ride from military training. Ilker allegedly punched the window in rage. His mother said he broke it. Ilker said it cracked. No reports, no witnesses, and no physical damage were ever confirmed. Ilker's timelines don't add up. He said he returned on the same day, then he said the next day. He said he took exams on June 12th. Then he said he couldn't take them and stayed for summer school. Volunteers noticed scars on his forearm, never explained. Çağla's boyfriend, Hussein, said Ilker had threatened him with a knife. Still, no forensic tests were conducted. Witness Gökçe Kaya, a neighbor, said she heard Çağla's usual footsteps, the door unlocking, and a surprised "ah." Then, conversation. Then, running. She assumed Ilker had returned home. Then, short pause, silence. Then, screaming. Gökçe Kaya's official statement taken by the police on January 21, 2014. I lived in the same building as Çağla Tuğaltay. Our apartments were on the same level, one floor above. Since we were of similar age, we would visit each other's homes and get along well. That year, Çağla was attending a high school in Levent. During school time, a shuttle would pick me up from a nearby location in the morning and drop me off around 1600 hours. I would usually be home around these times. Çağla would come home 30 to 60 minutes after me. I recognized her walk on the stairs because she would stomp her feet hard while walking. On the day of the incident, as usual, I came home from school, went to my room to study, and heard footsteps on the stairs about half an hour to 45 minutes later. From the sound, I understood that Çağla had come home from school. After the walking sound stopped, I heard a key turning in the lock and understood that she had opened her apartment door. Shortly after, I heard Çağla's voice expressing surprise or shock with an ah sound. I continued studying. Since Çağla's apartment was directly above ours and there was no other noise in the building, I heard a conversation in their apartment. However, I couldn't determine whether it was a man or a woman or understand the content of the conversation. Following the conversation, I heard the sound of running in Çağla's apartment. Thinking that her older brother Ilker, who I knew was studying in another city, had come home secretly to surprise the family, I didn't pay much attention, assuming they were playing or having a small argument. The running noise stopped shortly after. I continued studying in my room. In the evening, I heard a loud shouting sound from the stairs. When I went out, our neighbor Nilgun Che was screaming. Before I understood what was happening, the residents of the building gathered on the stairs and took Nilgun to her apartment. Shortly after, the police and my mother, who was a substitute teacher at the time, came, and I learned from our neighbors that Çağla was found murdered inside their apartment with her throat cut. The police interviewed the building residents individually. I shared what I knew. This is all I remember. Although I was friends with Çağla, I don't know if she had a boyfriend. There were no other young girls in our building besides us. I didn't have a boyfriend at that time either. Çağla never mentioned any conflicts or enemies to me. She was quiet and introverted. Her family was also good people. I don't know who could have committed this crime. After the incident, I didn't hear any running noises or see anyone fleeing in the building. This is all I have to say. But Çağla's family claimed Ilker was hundreds of kilometers away. Çağla's older brother, Ilker, was also about to finish his university studies in Ordu in 2 weeks, just like Çağla's school term was ending. He was due to sit for his final exams at Karadeniz Technical University starting June 12th. However, Ilker was put on a bus to Istanbul by his cousins after being told their grandmother was ill. Allegedly, at that time, Ilker had no knowledge of what had happened to his sister. According to his statement, he spoke with Çağla every day. He only learned the truth when the bus radio announced their address and his sister's initials, stating someone had been killed. Shocked, Ilker punched the bus window, cracking it. Gülner later said he smashed the window in a fit of rage, while Ilker maintains it caused only a small crack. Many years have passed since then, yet the inconsistencies surrounding Ilker Tuğaltay remain unexplained. For example, his mother claimed he left Istanbul on June 5th, but still took final exams on June 12th, and Ilker says, "I missed all the exams, so I returned to Ünye in July and had to attend summer school." Despite these claims, there is no record of a broken bus window, no phone data, and no witnesses. The only question is, where was Ilker and what was he doing that day? Lawyer Ümit Altay commented, "What Ms. Gülner said to prove she and Mr. Nadim weren't home on the day of the incident contains major inconsistencies. For example, she said her son was in Urdu, then claimed cousins put him on a bus. Then he said he arrived in 7 hours, later said it was 12 to 13 hours. It doesn't match. She says cousins sent him to Istanbul even though they knew Çağla had been killed. And before he left, he didn't call his family. Picture this, you're an 18-year-old, told your grandmother is ill, but you don't know your sister was murdered. Wouldn't you at least call your family or your sister? Especially if you talk to her every day, as he claims. So why didn't he call her that day? There are many allegations and contradictions about Çağla Tuğaltay. One was uncovered years later by vigilant volunteers following the case. Çağla had 3 scars on his arm, and no one knew when or how they occurred. Did he get them while punching the bus window after hearing about his sister's death? Or was it something else? There were even rumors that Hussein, Çağla's boyfriend at the time, said Çağla once pulled a knife on him. We don't know how true that is because the case file is confidential and we don't have direct access. We hear this only from his circle. In Hussein's 2013 statement, he said he dropped Çağla off at home. They were dating at the time, and that her family disapproved. That's all he said. Çağla has scar marks on his arm that resemble knife cuts, but that's a matter for forensic experts to determine, including how old the wounds are, whether they were caused by a knife or something else. To the naked eye, they look like knife cuts. Of course, specialists need to examine them, and I believe the prosecutor will pursue that. It has never been proven that Çağla's brother Çağla Tuğaltay was not in Istanbul on the day of the murder. One of the most haunting parts of the case is the DNA. Foreign DNA was found on Çağla's underwear in 2014. It didn't belong to her. It wasn't matched to any family member. And the killer was left-handed, just like Çağla. The knife was never found.
2014 yılında Çağla'da bir DNA bulundu. Çağla'nın cep telefonu duruyordu, o alınmamış. Hiçbir yer karışmamış yani. Çağla'yı öldürmüş, öldürdükten sonra da mutfakta ellerini yıkamış, sonra da çıkıp gitmiş.
The autopsy itself was contaminated. A coroner used gloves from a previous case, placing foreign DNA on Çağla's body. When this was discovered, the evidence was re-examined, and another troubling detail emerged. The blood stain labeled number 5 on the underwear she wore under her school uniform didn't match Çağla's own blood, which means it came from someone else. That DNA could very likely identify the killer, but like many other things in the investigation, it was never compared to the family. However, lawyer Ümit Altay has pushed for action. Regarding DNA, I filed a request with the prosecutor's office. Because there's foreign blood on Çağla's shorts, by that I mean the underwear, foreign DNA was found there. None of that DNA has been compared with family members. I asked, whose blood could that be? Especially since whoever committed the murder entered without forcing the door. They had a key. It's not that difficult. Neighbors repeatedly mentioned a green Mercedes. The family denied its existence, insisting they only owned a Renault. But under pressure during a live broadcast, they finally admitted, yes, there was a green Mercedes. It had belonged to Gülnur's father. The family used it regularly. After Çağla's death, it vanished. Lawyer Ümit Altay said, "We think the car was used in covering up evidence. No one has seen it since. We heard it was eventually scrapped. The police never investigated it." In a time when green Mercedes cars were rare, how could such a detail be forgotten? Why lie? And what role did that car play? Despite all this, no arrests, no trial, no accountability, just more questions. Why was Ilker's story inconsistent? Why did the doctor disappear? Why did the father wander the house instead of staying with his daughter? Why lie about a car? And why is there still no justice for a 15-year-old girl murdered in her home, in daylight, with no forced entry, surrounded by people who all said they loved her? Sometimes the loudest evidence is what gets erased, and sometimes the most dangerous detail is the one everyone pretended wasn't there.